Good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak on this 15th day of June 2021. My name is Sam Gituku, and it's time we want to focus on what's informing public conversation. And joining us via way of Skype, we have Dr. James Nyikal, who is the Member of Parliament for Seme. We also have Sylvia Kasanga, who is the nominated senator. And here in studio, we have Dr. Chris Wamala, who is the Member of Parliament for Community Constituency. And they are here to talk about different matters. But I want us to begin with the breaking news that came or rather yesterday afternoon, or that is the death of some two gentlemen. And I want to begin with remembering Dr. Chris Kirubi, who died yesterday at the age of 80. It is the main story on the two dailies, that is on the front page of the Daily Nation and on the Standard. The last days of Kirubi, well told or narrated there, including how much of an impact he had in the different sectors of economy, having invested in many of them, manufacturing, media, and even financial sectors. And I want to begin with you, Dr. James Nyikal. When you reflect on this man that has been quite influential when it comes to the different sectors of economy, many remembering him for different reasons, whether good or bad, what is your reflection on the passing on of this icon who was suffering from cancer?
Let me start by passing my condolences to the family and really wishing them well and strength to go through this. Having said that, I know Mr. Kirubi was known as a business icon, but he also did other things. And when I met him, most is when we were starting the National AIDS Control Council. That is actually when the AIDS Control Council was set up. It was then in the office of the president. We did not even have test equipment. We did not have even ARVs. The structure was not there. And I remember he actually offered to host the office at one time in his offices. When we were not very satisfied with the offices we have at KICC. Eventually, through his effort, we actually got very good offices, and the National Disease Control Council was set up. And I remember that he was very passionate in everything he was doing. I mean, for me, that's what I remember him most. I also remember him when he was the head of Kenatco. And I think I remember Kenatco starting up. My concern at the time is that Kenatco was then competing with the East African Railways and Harbors before it became Kenya Railways. And I wondered why the government would then set up an institution that is competing with another institution. That was then, but I think it all went well. Kenatco was established, and from there he went on into his industrial and business activities. But I remember him most for his contribution in the early days of setting up National State Control Council. He did a good job of it.
Okay, all right. And Senator Sylvia Kasanga, of course, when young people speak, they look at the business persons that are in their lives. And when you look at Chris, he's someone that may have started quite early. I don't know what lessons the young people are picking from this man, even as you remember him.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, and thank you so much for having me again this morning. Favorably known as DJ CK for us who are on the younger generation who have known Dr. Chris Kirubi. We know him for his work with Capital FM when he took over Capital FM. And, during his later life, he had taken to Twitter when he, retreated from public. He went on to Twitter and was using that platform to advise young people on entrepreneurship. And a lot of advice was coming through him almost on a daily basis through his tweets for those who would follow him on how to be an astute business person as he was. And that, for me, was probably his way of sharing with young people on the business front, and you could pick up quite a number of ideas from him. And I do send my deepest condolences to his family, mostly his business partners, the people who worked for him, the people he worked with. Indeed, a great loss for them on the business front, and of course in the family front, a very big loss to them. But there's something I want to tell Kenyans they might not know about the late DJ CK. He was a mental health advocate. In fact, when we started our advocacy work and we started our journey towards the Mental Health Amendment Bill 2018, the first round of the publication of that bill, DJ CK came in full support. He was not in public then. He had just recently come back, I remember, from treatment abroad, and he was mostly operating from home, but he did support the campaign. And in fact, Capital FM has been on the forefront and speaking on mental health right from 2018. And that is thanks to DJ CK, who has been a great supporter of the work of mental health and a great supporter of the government when it comes to, the policy advocacy towards mental health. And that is something I know many people don't know about him. So we mourn him. And we wish and we pray that he rests his soul with the angels in heaven. And that is something that I think Kenyans need to know about DJ CK.
Okay, all right. And I have to say that this morning you're looking like a DJ, looking at what you're putting on. But Dr. Chris Ocholla, so when you're reflecting on the life and times of Dr. Chris Kirubi, if you had to look at page 4 of the Daily Nation, you'll see that he was the insider in government who accompanied President Kenyatta on trips to South Africa, China, and the US, among other places, in pursuit of business and investments. And I'm just wondering, what is the role of business persons when it comes to management of an economy, and what assistance would they give to a government, despite the many, perceptions that may come that they are there to make business through an administration?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. First, allow me to send my message of condolence to the family and the friends of the late DJ CK Kirubi, and for the demise. And we pray to Almighty God to give the family fortitude at this particular difficult time. First, I want to say that we have something in common with CK Kirubi. CK Kirubi is also an alumni of the school I went to, French School Kamsinga. And I met Chris Kirubi first in 2002 in State House. That's the time Kibaki had taken over. And the late Vice President Omala Kijana, when we were coming from the swearing in at Uhuru Park, he put me in his car. Actually, I was in the back seat. And we went to State House. That was the first time I was going to State House, the State House party. And I met Chris Kirubi. That's the time we exchanged. And when I was telling him the history, where I've come from, that's when he told me. He also passed French School Kamsinga. And this is a man who was, besides the fact that he was a businessman, but he was so connected to the government of the day. At no given time, you'll find Chris Kirubi going on the side of opposition. In fact, when it comes to funding, he even funded KANU. I remember during the fundraising of, during Moi's days, there was a time they had a plate party whereby you had to pay around 10 million plates to sit with the president. And Chris Kirubi was one of the people who paid the 10 million party plate the time of KANU to sit with the late President Moi. So he's a man, much that he was a businessman, he was in the private sector, but who knew government is. And back to your question of saying that the connection of business to government. In any economy, it's the business that drives the economy. And any government must work with the business players, particularly when it comes to decision making. And by the way, the other side of Chris Kirubi, where people maybe didn't know, this is a man who shared so much when it came to academic journals, particularly to do with business, from Harvard. And I remember every time he used to meet, he used to ask me, have you read about this? Have you heard about this new journal? For example, there's a professor in Harvard called Professor Michael Porter. Those of you who've read about Professor Michael Porter talk so much about the issue of competition. There's a theory on competition, which Chris Kirubi really liked. There's also a professor called Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey is known for his book of the 7 habits of effective people. And one of the habits of the successful people is about sharpening the saw. That is means continuous learning. Even if you are a practitioner, you must be able to learn to know new ideas. And Chris Kirubi was one person who used to read so much about the business journals. There's also this Professor Kaplan and Norton who came up with a model called Balance Scorecard, which is mostly used in organizations on performance management. So every time I used to meet Chris Kirubi, we used to talk so much about business. And I'm also an associate when it comes to Harvard Business School, whereby some of the theories that they've developed, we've tried to domesticate them and see whether they apply here in Africa. So Chris Kirubi, besides matters of business, he's somebody who has been attending attending seminars to know what is new as far as management of business is concerned. And when it comes to government, he supported Moi government, he supported the Kibaki government, and he has also been supporting the Uhuru government. This is to tell you that the businessmen, they're also very concerned about politics in any country, because politics drives business. And this is a lesson maybe to other businesses, so that when politics is there, they should be concerned and get involved in shaping the democracy of any country.
And we'll be talking about that later on when it comes to politics of succession, because it appears to be such a complicated matrix. But also yesterday, the curtain fell on former game legislator Jakoyo Midiwo. It is a story on page 14 of the Standard and also page 5 of the Daily Nation, of course, described by many as a fiery debater. I don't know whether Dr. Nyikal, you had the opportunity to serve alongside Honorable Midiwo as MP. What are your memories about him and reflections this morning?
Yes, once again, I start by passing my condolences to the family and the friends, which are many, and colleagues of Honorable Midiwo. I knew Jakoyo Midiwo well. Even before I went into politics, we interacted a lot. But in politics, we served with him in the last parliament, and he actually led the opposition team that time of NASA. And I'll tell you that Jakoyo Midiwo will be missed by this country in the parliament, even though he was not a member of parliament. When he led our side, Jakoyo was forthright. You knew where he was. You knew what he stood for. You knew he supported the coalition. He supported the party. And it's not like many politicians who you are not sure when you are not with them what they're saying. I mean, he's the kind of politician who would be behind your back with a knife, and he says, I'm not going to stab you, and you can actually sleep that Jakoyo will not stab me. And when he made a point, he made it clearly. He didn't miss words. When he lost his cool, he lost it for a reason. You would see Jakoyo is justified. And if you actually went too far and you started to threaten, he would be ready to be physical. But it was all for a good cause. And it was what he stood for. In his constituency, Jakoyo made remarkable improvement in infrastructure. I think he had better roads, many roads tarmacked in his constituency than any other constituency I know in Nyanza. That means he also had good contact with government. So that's how he could get some infrastructures done that could not be done with CDF. And he's in his own personal life, Jakoyo lived relatively simply. He wasn't opulent in any way. And I would say that this country will need people like Jakoyo, who will say it as it is to whoever he needs to say it to. He had no limit, and I can't say this to this person because of his position, so long as he was convinced that that was the right thing. And that's Jakoyo we knew we will dearly miss him.
Okay, and of course,
outside of politics.
He died at the age of 54, and the Standard is reporting that his death comes barely 3 days after that of his sister, and about a week after they buried their uncle, and the funeral of the sister was expected to be held this weekend. He died at the age of 54. We'll be looking for a voice of him.
The family has had a misfortune. The family has had a misfortune. His sister, his uncle, and now the sister hasn't even been buried. And in fact, by yesterday, before we had this, I knew he was unwell, but what we are concerned about was the funeral of his sister, the loss of other relatives, and then this came bang. So we really wish the family well and the friends well, the political fraternity in the country. I don't think just the NASA or ODM side or the Nyanza side. Jakoyo was actually a national figure that we shall miss.
Indeed. Senator Sylvie Kasanga, your reflections.
Yes, MP Jakoyo Midiwo. I mean, my deepest condolences again to the family for his loss and that of his sister. I just saw that on the tweet as well, that they buried their sister, his elder sister, just a couple of days before his own demise. Real tragedy for the family and, of course, for the people of Nyanza. I didn't know him personally, but without a doubt, he epitomizes what is called party loyalty. Without a doubt, we know he fought for ODM, and he was very vocal in parliament, extremely vocal. And we'll never forget during campaigns, Jakoyo Midiwo, his voice was very loud during the political seasons of fighting for their political seats. And for that, we say, he's done well, and he has written his history clearly in the templates of this country and for ODM Kenya. So my deepest condolences again to the family, and of course for the loss of their dear sister. 2 members of a family at one time is definitely a big loss. I don't think I know what it is that he was ailing from, but like earlier I forgot to just mention on DJ CK that the cancer has become the greatest topic we can talk of besides COVID now in this era. And it's important that we come out openly about these issues and our struggles when we are struggling with some of these ailments, so that we can help fight the stigma around it, and also we can push our country to resolve and to help Kenyans when it comes to sorting out and seeking medical help on some of these issues. Thank you, Sam.
All right, of course, our heartfelt condolences to the family. Dr. Chris Omalwa, you served with Jakoyo Midiwo in the last parliament, and he was actually your minority, was it minority whip?
Jakoyo Midiwo was the minority deputy leader, deputizing Nyenze. But on the floor of the House, he was like the minority leader. So first, my message of condolence to the family and friends of the late Jakoyo Midiwo, somebody that I served with in the leadership of Parliament, that is in the 11th Parliament. Jakoyo Midiwo was the deputy minority leader. Nyenze was the minority leader. Mungaro at that time was the chief whip. I was the deputy chief whip. But when it came to the floor of the House, because I remember that time Nyenze was also ailing, you find that Midiwo was like the minority leader, and I was like the minority whip on the floor of the House. And we worked very well as far as the leadership of CORD was concerned on the floor of the House. And Midiwo was a very knowledgeable guy. He was an astute debater, and very brave, very forthright. And when a matter was coming on the floor of the House that was very hot, nobody wanted to lead. And he was the first one to give a shot. He was a team player. I remember he could bring us together when it's an issue that comes on the floor of the House, when it comes to matters concerning the stand of the coalition. He was on the front line. He was a transformative leader. And he was very knowledgeable as far as the issues of standing orders are concerned. You can see him on the floor of the House standing up with a book showing the standing orders, and he could challenge. I remember one time during the time of the budget estimates, where he brought everything to a standstill until we had to do some amendments to bring in the teachers' salaries, where we had issues to do with the teachers' salaries and all that. So Parliament has lost such a brilliant debater. We miss him in the current Parliament. I don't think we have a Jakoyo Midiwo in the current Parliament. And it's just last week when we were discussing, then you were saying, we miss the days of Jakoyo Midiwo. Every time on the front bench he was there. He could lead us, as opposed to currently, you see some leaders trying to move up and down without even providing clear direction. We were providing oversight. We were the opposition. We were putting the government in check, which is missing currently. And Midiwo was leading, as we are following. So we hope the current leadership can borrow a leaf from Jakoyo Midiwo.
But it appears the political workings have changed now in the current term.
Yeah, the environment has changed, but we still remain, we are supposed to oversight the government. How I wish that he was there. I didn't hear him talk about the current stalemate of the JSC. And last time he visited my constituency, actually he's the one who encouraged me that I should go for the governor of Trans Nzoia County. And I know wherever he is, he'll pray for me that my dream comes true.
Okay.
Yes.
And of course, the stories on the Standard, you see that them saying that the last time he was seen he was attending the tours of President Uhuru Kenyatta in the Nyanza region, where he was launching some projects in the region. Someone saying, quoted here, saying that he appeared sickly at the time. That was just a few days before Madaraka Day. Now he passed on yesterday, again at the age of 54, and our condolences to the family and friends and the constituents of GEM to them. Now, I want us to focus on something different, and that is to do with succession politics, because you've heard from the National Super Alliance some two principles saying that they are willing to work together again as we look for that. I don't know, Dr. James Nyikal, your reflections before you can listen to what the leaders had to say. Is it a possibility that the NASA principles can work together again, despite what we know has become of the coalition since the election of 2017?
You know, politics is a game where virtually everything is possible, and it depends on the interest at the time. If it becomes in the interest of the principles that they should work together, and hopefully in the interest of the country that they should work together, why not? I mean, you cannot hold personal views or personal grudges against the interests of the country, of the people. If that should make progress forward so that we have a peaceful country where things can be done, because you realize that the problem we really have as a country is that at the end of every election, we have differences that cannot be resolved, and we do not accept the election results because the winner takes all makes those who lose actually feel belligerent, and we get in problems. And one of the issues in the BBI was, how do we get it such that when elections are over, people feel that they're represented? And a very important thing is in leadership is that actually people take their leaders to represent them wherever they are, so that when every community, every group feels that they're represented, there is relative peace. That's why you see when we had a crisis like in 2007, 2008, two people sit together and agree a coalition and the country becomes quiet. You see this time, two people talk and becomes quiet. And even during the NASA coalition, it was actually a very strong coalition. Chris Wamalwa there can tell you it was. So I hear many people are saying, oh, NASA is dead, nothing can happen. But so long as leaders and the principals meet and they discuss and they feel it is one in their interest as leaders and in the ambitions they have, and two, it will bring stability to the country, why not? So I can never come out and say, oh, this can never happen. Okay. So in my view, when they are talking as the leader of WIPA talks to the Honorable Raila, to me it's a good sign. I cannot say never.
Dr. Nyikal, let's listen to what the leader said. It was at the funeral of former Kibwezi West or Kibwezi MP Kalembe Ndile over the weekend.
NASA was a very strong. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, tafadhali wewe na Kalonzo, na nataka niseme hii tu kidogo. 2002 tulikuja pamoja. Wewe, Mheshimiwa Kibaki, mimi nilikuwa ndani, Mheshimiwa Wamalwa, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, saa 4:30 moja alikuwa ameenda nyumbani. Ni kwa sababu gani hamuwezi mkafanya namna hiyo? Na nitajaribu, Mungu asaidie. Nitajaribu mimi mwenyewe nione kama naweza kuwaleta pamoja.
Na mimi na Kalonzo hatuwezi kukosana. Tutakubaliana tu. Tutasimama pamoja ili tuweze kutoa hawa wezi ambao wanadanganya wa Kenya. Ile fisi ambaye amejibisha nguo ya kondoo, badala ya kusema mau, nasema mrrr.
Tunaunda muundo mpya, One Kenya Alliance. Charity, I want you to know, Kalonzo will not run alone. Kwanza Mungu ako pamoja nasi. Alright? Tuko na huyu ndugu Raila ambaye tunajuana sana. All those 10 years ya kung'ang'ana bila kuogopa.
Hakuna mmoja wetu peke yake anaweza kuwa rais wa Kenya. Mkikosa kushikana, mutashindwa na huyu mtu. Na hatutaki kuingia kwa wheelbarrow. I do not want.
Bado vitu vinaundwa. Na kwa hivyo vitaelea. We have of course NASA, hatuja tupilia mbali NASA. Technically it is there.
Senator Sylvia Kasanga, yesterday we had Dan Manzo from Makueni, and he was saying that NASA will only work if Kalonzo Musyoka is the presidential candidate. And I remember covering his meeting, I think it was at the Bomas of Kenya in 2017, and he said at the age of 63, he cannot imagine what would make him not run for office. He still went ahead and, ran for office as a deputy president, not as a president as he had said. So this time round, do you have the conviction that Wiper is going to produce the presidential candidate, especially if you have to work with the other NASA core principles?
Yeah, for some reason the sound is a bit on and off, so I hope you can hear me steadily.
Yes, you're clear.
Thank you so much. Like Dr. Nyikal said, in politics anything is possible. And what Honorable Dan Manzo did say yesterday is actually the position of the Wiper Party. That indeed, and increasingly you have had our party leader come out very clearly about the One Kenya alliance. And we want to put the interests of Kenyans first. In fact, yesterday when we met with the president, it was not even about politics. What took us and the invitation of the president to State House was on a developmental agenda. But of course, politics does still play out because we still are politicians in the end. Mm-hmm. And what is coming out clearly is for us to put the interests of Kenyans first, we must also put our political interests on the back seat. And without a doubt, the coming together of members is so critical in delivering the interests of Kenyans. So the One Kenya Alliance is critical, and we're inviting, of course, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to join the One Kenya Alliance so that we can then work together towards delivering the interests of Kenyans. And for us to work together with the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, then it means that it is time for him, of course, to support our candidate and to support our party leader, because for the last election cycles, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, His Excellency, has supported and stood with Raila all along. So it is about time now that we flip, and then we can see that we shall truly deliver to Kenyans what is rightfully theirs. Mm-hmm. So these are the conversations that are happening, and without a doubt, the coming together is inevitable. It's inevitable because it is the right step forward. I mean, the country right now is ailing economically. Any government taking over next year has to be a government of unity that is looking at stabilizing the economy first and foremost before anything else can happen. And therefore, it will be unfortunate if we go into an election cycle which will end up, with what we saw in 2017, with what we saw in 2013, and unfortunately, again, what we saw in 2007, 2008. We need an economy that is being received with a stable political environment. Okay. And any stable political environment requires that, leaders have come together as one and stood together as one. So there's no perception of a winner-take-it-all situation. Mm-hmm. That the situation is that we are all equal at par. We are all going to share the national cake equally, and the first agenda on the item of agenda, the first item of agenda is to stabilize the economy. So we are very clear about this as Ukambani and Lower Eastern leaders, and that is the conversations that we were having yesterday when we met with the president.
All right, Senator. I just want to bring it to Dr. Chris Omalo here in studio, because you have served in some very senior organs of the National Super Alliance, and I believe even during the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy Accord. What has changed? Because you have consistently spoke so much against the National Super Alliance and how you were being treated while under Ford Kenya. So what will change this time? Do you entertain the thought of Raila Odinga working together again with Kalonzo Musyoka, and does that include Moses Wetangula and Ford Kenya?
Thank you for that wonderful question, Sam. Sam, if I take you through the memory lane, this country can only be led by coalitions. Going back to NAK, between the late Michael Omalo Kijana, by then the vice president, Mwai Kibaki and Charity Ngilu, they formed the government. From there, we came to I think we had COD. The time of COD, where we had Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Moses Masika Wetangula, against the Jubilee side, where it was William Ruto and President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. After that, the URP came together with the, I think, TNA, now to form the current Jubilee, which was through a coalition. And as from the CORD side, we went to NASA side. And we've already moved to One Kenya Alliance. As we speak right now, we are in One Kenya Alliance, where we have Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula.
But Kalonzo Musyoka says that NASA is still technically alive.
I was coming to that. Kalonzo Musyoka and now Gideon Moi. NASA is not technically alive. NASA is legally alive, but technically is dead. And the announcement of the death was of NASA was announced by none other than Raila Amolo Odinga himself. He has been all over saying NASA is dead. His Secretary General, Sifuna, whom we sat with here in the studio, he said NASA is gone. It is true, NASA is gone, but legally, because I've been in the management of these coalitions, and I have some experience. In a coalition, it is a give and take. It must be a win-win situation. Under CORD, I was part of the management team, where we had James Orengo, Dalmas Otieno, we had the senior Mutula Kilonzo, and I was there. I was just joining politics, that's under CORD. And because I was part and parcel of those coalition agreements and management, and that's how I got my position in leadership of parliament at that particular time.
Okay.
NASA came in. I was also part of the management board of NASA, where we had James Orengo as our team leader. We had also Mudama, we had Bunyasi from the side of ANC, and I was there from the side of Ford Kenya, whereby we shared those positions. But what happened? The big brother, led by Raila Amolo Odinga, we were actually betrayed. Moses Masika Wetangula lost his position as the minority leader. I was kicked out as the deputy minority leader just because of the freedom of association. You know, I'm the chairman of the Catholic Members of Parliament. And there are many programs working with the church, and we worked with the current deputy president, William Ruto. That's how I lost my job.
So what must change for you to work together, whether it's within NASA or
as my
differently?
colleagues have said, in politics it's about interests. And now that NASA is dead, but legally it's there, and we've already moved to One Kenya Alliance. This is the baby we're talking about. So Raila Amolo Odinga, let him join One Kenya Alliance, and let him join as one among equals. Because under CORD, there was a gentleman's MOU that come 2017, he was to support a different presidential candidate. So when it came to NASA, there was also a gentleman's agreement that this time, guys, you've supported me, I had one bullet, and in future, I'm going to support others. Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka,
and
Moses Masika. Yes, I was part and parcel of this. But the politics changed.
Just hold on. Dr. James Nyikal, does ODM entertain the thought of, yes, you offer your support to another candidate outside ODM, and Raila Odinga will not be the presidential candidate?
You know, when you see what the question you put was, is it possible? And I answered it is possible. And actually, from the discussion you are hearing, everybody is saying it is possible. The argument you hear we are putting is actually almost, we are already negotiating what positions we want. I mean, if you're already negotiating positions you want, you are saying, yes, we are willing to be there, but this is what we want. But this is part of the process. You remember also when they made those agreements earlier on, the idea was that I will be president for this time, and then you will take over. Now, nobody has been a president amongst them. So that will always remain an issue. Was there any agreement that was broken? If you then have served as a president and you still want to serve as a president, you are breaking the agreement. But if you have not served, but let's not go into these details because because the interest of the country is much larger than that. But also remember, don't also be taken away by names, NAC, CORD, NASA, Jubilee, and now One Kenya Alliance. When these alliances come, you can't tell when you go to 2022 what the name will be. So just say, is it possible? Are people willing to come together for the sake of the country while taking into consideration their political interests? My answer to that is yes. When we get there, again, there'll be negotiation. Like what Manzo said,
okay.
That is already a negotiation. This is what we want. All of us are just saying.
Well,
yes,
Dr. Nyikal, you say.
In other words, don't start a negotiation with, it must be this for me, because if you start like that, you'll never go anywhere. You should start by saying, is it good for all of us to get this? Like if you remember many of those positions that we are creating in BBI, the idea is how do you accommodate all people? How does every Kenyan group feel? Because human beings actually hunt in groups. Let me use that context. And when people feel I'm represented, they are at ease. And so if you have all these people and their positions, that their face is being seen at the table, people are centered. So that is what people will talk about. But the possibility that we come together is there.
All right, Dr. James Nyikal, you said that there are points of negotiation, but it would appear that the Wiper Party has already taken a position that Kalonzo Musyoka has to be the presidential candidate. But let's listen to the other core principle in the name of Musalia Mudavadi from ANC. He spoke over the weekend. Listen.
Every time, wanasema, are you ready to work with X? Can you work with Y? Why don't you ever ask, that X, is he ready to work with me? Don't try and create a narrative which is being spun.
Hiyo ndoa ya NASA imekwisha ladha. Hatuna haja nayo. We want to find new partners. So hiyo dhana ya kusema kwamba ati mtatushikanisha tena kwa ndoa ya NASA, ningependa kusema hiyo ni ndoto ya mchana. We are focused to make Musalia the fifth president of the Republic of Kenya.
All right, sorry about that. So, Senator Sylvia Kasanga, let me come to you because that is ANC party leader, and of course, Senator Malala there saying that it's either Musalia or Musalia. Yourself, you're saying it's either Kalonzo or Kalonzo. But then Dr. Nyikal is saying, just hold on, well, you'll get to that. Then Dr. Nyikal is saying that you should not come posturing with a fixed position. It's a negotiation. So what if you get on the table and ODM insists we have to have the presidential candidate based on the strength of numbers, which I just want to refer to, because at the moment, based on the election of 2017, ODM got 73 legislators at the National Assembly. Then Wiper Party got 23, Amani 14, and Ford Kenya 13. Do you really have the muscle to insist on being the producing presidential candidate?
Sam, you're really fishing for us to make a clear position right now.
It is important.
Yes, I can see that. But I want to just remind you that a lot of things are unfolding as we speak right now. And it's important, of course, for us to state what it is that we want and what it is that we can offer Kenyans. That is very critical, and that is what is politics. We have to state our positions in good time. The time will come to actually sit down and then negotiate or plan or arrange. That period is going to come. But for now, it is important that this conversation continues for us to position ourselves without a doubt. Now, when it comes to the previous election, because of NASA, the dynamics of NASA, saw that, in fact, Wiper, we lost some seats because of the way the NASA coalition had arranged itself, which, in fact, didn't favor us in some cases. We should have seen even higher number of seats in Parliament from what we saw. Mm-hmm. So even going into any other coalitions, we shall be careful on how we shall arrange ourselves so that we don't see such losses happening. And I just want to reiterate what the other panelists have said. Coalitions what are making governments today. You saw Netanyahu lost his seat the other day because of coalition arrangements within parliament. So without a doubt, it is coalitions that will form, governments in this democratic space that we are in right now. And therefore, we should not preempt too much for now. Remember, we are on the eve of a referendum. We don't know whether that is going to happen. And if it should happen, then it will take a different face. If it does not happen, then we have to arrange ourselves also in a slightly different way. So a lot of things are unfolding right now. In as much as Sam, you're trying to fish for us to say something, we are still also going to be very cautious in how we are going to position ourselves and the things that we are going to say on air for Kenyans to know. Mm-hmm. But without a doubt, Ukambani is ready for leadership. We are the 4th largest tribe. We come solidly as one community. You saw us in State House yesterday. We came together, and our party leader, His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka. You saw the governor of Machakos. You saw the governor of Kitui. The governor of Makueni sent his representatives because he's been ailing. And you saw the business community was represented yesterday when we met with the president. And we are coming together as one. And we are telling Kenyans, here we are. We've been very loyal. Mm-hmm. We've been very faithful. In fact, memes have made fun of our community, that we are so loyal when it comes to handling of people's businesses and people's money. And we are saying it is now time to also see what we have to offer. We will take care of Kenyans' money. We will stabilize this economy. It's time. Mm-hmm. It's time now.
It's interesting that you should say that. And we'll get to that point, because there are those that have been accusing you of, not you as a person, but your party, of looking for the blessings of President Kenyatta. We'll see what the role will be of that. But Dr. Chris Omalwa, so Musalia Mudavadi wants to be president. Kalonzo Musyoka wants to be president. I don't know whether Moses Wetangula or yourself want to be president. And how will you negotiate this, bearing in mind the numbers that were, and what has actually happened to your side of the party, having lost even all your leadership positions in the House? What changes? And
yeah, Sam, the issue is when it comes to negotiations, as I said earlier, it's a give and take. In negotiation, you must be a win-win. But if you want to, the winner takes it all, people will run away from you. We've gone through this journey of coalitions, starting from the CORD, the NASA, now we're One Kenya Alliance. By the way, One Kenya Alliance, we've already started. We've already put a technical team in place, which is already working under the 4 principles of Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Gideon Moi. But the coalition is open-minded. Anybody can as well join it, so long as you come with mind that you are coming one among equals, not coming that you must be the one to play the penalty in this game. And Raila Odinga is welcomed, because we've also seen his interest that he wants to join One Kenya Alliance. So the issue of NASA, as far as I'm concerned, it is dead. NASA is technically dead. It's only available on the paper, legally. Mm-hmm. We are in parliament under the NASA coalition. But from the way our big brothers have played it, it's not there. And
but
ODM moved and went to the Jubilee side. They had the coalition to the Jubilee side.
What really changes? Because in 2013, you had everyone, apart from Musalia Mudavadi. You didn't win the election. In 2017, you had all of them on board, but you still didn't win the election. What happens next year?
Yeah, but that does not mean things are changing. We are going to have a lot of realignments. Who knows? Even William Samoei Ruto might join us in One Kenya Alliance. Who knows?
You think so?
So we are going to have a lot of, I'm saying, politics, okay, everything is possible.
Hold it there.
So the issue is, I had not finished my point.
I'll give you a chance. Let's listen to the Deputy President, because he spoke about National Super Alliance over the weekend. Listen.
Mkiona wale wenzetu wameanza kuingiza maji kwa tumbo, nilisikia wao jana wakisema wasipoungana huyu hasla atawanyorosha mapema asubuhi. Mimi nataka niwaambie watafute sera ya mipango ya maendeleo wauze kwa wananchi. Kuungana kushinda mtu haiwezi kusaidia mtu yeyote. Waungane, watafute kwanza sera. They must first have an agenda for Kenya. You cannot just meet or unite merely because you want to defeat somebody. Na msipomshinda.
Right, that's the Deputy President, of course, dismissing what Kalonzo Musyoka, Charity Ngilu and Raila Odinga was speaking about in Kibwezi. And when you said that you may also want to work with William Ruto, are you just saying it for the sake of speaking politically, or it's actually a desire because you see that you have policies that are aligned to what he's advocating for?
The intention of any coalition is to form government. That is the intention or the objective of any political party, is to grab power. But in the process of grabbing power, if it's need so that you have to maybe align with so and so for purposes of capturing power, so be it. So right now we're in competition. Why parties come together? They are competitors. But because they want to complement each other, so we only have about 1 year to 2022. And I don't think the objective of One Kenya Alliance is to gang up against William Ruto. No. It's about coming up with an agenda and to form the government. But as we move forward, if conditionalities are likely to change. So whatever Kalonzo said in Kibwezi, personally I've tried to engage him. We really want to understand the context from which he was speaking that way. And I have no doubt One Kenya Alliance leadership is going to have a meeting so that he can be able to clarify what did he mean by talking about the issue of NASA.
Are you saying you're not entirely comfortable with what he said?
No, I never say that. But you want to understand the context. You know, it was a funeral. You know, at a funeral, somebody can get excited and say anything. But as part and parcel of a member of One Kenya Alliance, which I know very well that NASA is dead. NASA is just there legally, but technically is not there. We are now in One Kenya Alliance. And if Raila Odinga wants to join us in One Kenya Alliance, we have a framework.
Before I bring Dr. Nyikal on board,
Can I weigh in?
Just hold on, Dr. Nyikal. I've asked you a specific question. You say that you can actually work with DP Ruto. Is it because you have policies that are aligned to him, or you're just speaking for the sake of politics?
What I said, Sam, and I want to repeat, One Kenya Alliance is not coming together for purposes of maybe objecting or going against William Ruto. It's about the issue of agenda. And I said William Ruto can also be an ally in future. You cannot rule him out. Because as I said, in politics, it's about interests. So we cannot rule out William Ruto, no.
Dr. Nyikal, then, what defines you? What are you offering Kenyans that you'll say that you have this many programs that you want to achieve and you need the hands of these other parties to achieve them, whether you are the presidential candidate or the party producing a presidential candidate or not?
What Kenya needs most, this country has to fight most, one is tribalism. I know that even these coalitions have ethnic basis, but if it could be in such a way that the ethnicity is used positively, so that tribalism does not become a major factor, a negative tribalism does not become a major factor in our governance, that is something we have to look at. The other thing we have to look at is this country is just the issue of graft. The corruption and graft actually has brought this down. I've always said, I once said, I think it was Professor Nyong'o's mother's funeral when I told the president that if you can actually, if we can eliminate two things, tribalism and corruption, we would go a long way. And then after that, the sharing, the national sharing of resources, so that resources are shared in a way that every part of the country feels we are part of it. And if then we have that stability, then we can then have an economy that is running, that can build industries, so that there is employment for the youth. And that then we can have services, particularly like health. Then if you have that together, then all these alliances that people talk about, if they cannot produce that, then really we are not talking for Kenyans. But I think that is assumed, because if you ask all of us, in all these groups, you will find that we are all saying the same thing. What we are now saying, how do we get together and deliver those things to Kenyans? And I told you, and let me repeat, don't be worried about NAC, COD, NASA, whether NASA is dead or not dead. These things exist in the hearts of the leaders themselves. The name can be changed, Jubilee, One Kenya Alliance. When people come together, one of the things they might start saying, no, then we need to have a name that is bringing us all together so that some people do not feel like foreigners in this. Those could still all happen. And what another thing I want to bring out that we must see in this country, when issues like this are coming, when you talk to us supporters and members of these coalitions who are not the principals, sometimes you really will not get the crux of the matter. Remember, in 2007, 2008, it was almost impossible to even get the coalition government going until just two people, President Kibaki then and Raila Odinga, went to Kilaguni, and they sat together and they came back, and we had a coalition, and then things were built around that. Just let me take the most recent case when President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga shook hands. It is not us, the supporters around them, that actually came around, because when you are building a structure, all the people that are around are starting to look at the structure. Where is my seat in this structure? And that makes negotiation very difficult. So let me tell you, as much as you are trying to get from the three of us where the direction is, the real direction is if you can get in the heart of the principles.
Dr. Jika,
they can come together tomorrow and all of say this is going on. And one final thing that I want to come out.
Just a moment, Dr. Jika. Dr. Jika, allow me to get to Senator Kasanga, because you've raised a very important matter, which I would call an admission, that it is the principals who will eventually decide. And so, Senator Kasanga, again, coming to you, because I've raised the same question with Dr. Chris Omalo, what really defines your side of politics that you would say that when we offer this to Kenyans, it is the best decision against the competition? Because already there's competition. There's already a dismissal of yourselves by one DP Ruto. And the second part of that question, what will be the role of Uhuru Kenyatta, the current president, in the succession of next year, so that we are seeing you going to State House, you're hosting him to come and unveil projects? What is that arrangement that we do not know?
Yeah, let me start from your second question and the role of the president and what it is that we were doing in State House yesterday. And this is a very serious issue. You know, as Wiper Party, we did go into an agreement with the ruling party, Jubilee, that we would cooperate. So we're in a cooperation agreement. And we are in we are in full agreement of the president's agenda to unite the country as a way of succession politics. That is the one thing that we all believe in. And we believe very strongly that it is in this unity of leaders that will take us to cross over to the next election and deliver a politically stable country to begin to rebuild our economy, you know, post-COVID recovery, and of course, you know, all the other issues ailing the economy today. So that is one thing that we believe in. And in fact, when you hear the governor of Kitui, when she was speaking at the funeral of the late Honorable Kalembe Ndile, she was referring to the fact that we must work together in unity. And I know the deputy president has, in a way, belittled those conversations, to mean that, we are fearful of his quest for leadership. But that is not the issue. The issue and the message has been very clear from us. Maybe we don't shout out loud enough. Maybe that is where we maybe fall short a little bit. But our messaging is clear that for us to cross over to the next electoral cycle with a politically stable situation and environment so that business can thrive, we must work together in unity. And that has been the import of the BBI. Where BBI came from was that we must come together as one and deliver this country in that sense. And that is where we are coming from as Wiper leaders. And as to who will be the flag bearer of the One Kenya Alliance, again, like I said earlier, Sam, it is important that each of the principals, of course, they have to sell themselves, individually. They have to sell themselves individually. But when, again, when the bell is rung, or when the whistle is blown, or when the fat lady sings, when that time comes, then of course we shall all sit together and then we shall agree that this is the best way to move forward, because it is in the interest of each one of us. It is in the interest of the principles of One Kenya Alliance that we have a stable country politically next year. And this is why this conversation of inclusion is very serious, Sam. You know, when we talk about inclusion, and for us who have been, you know, proponents of BBI, we've been looking at this national resource, this cake that we are talking about. The government right now is, you know, passing a 3.5 trillion budget. Of that, there is the 1.5 trillion national resources. And you see, the perception has always been that these resources are, you know, delivered in a skewed manner. You know, because you did not vote for me, then you don't get. And the areas and the regions that voted for me seem to get, you know, they seem to get more. These are the issues that we are trying to address.
So Senator, coming together. Or it's the reality, because it is the work of the National Assembly to make sure that resources are shared as it should be, because they look at the budget policy statement and they go ahead to consider all other bills brought to the House. Is your claim factual?
Well, Sam, again, you know, there's been several proposed structural changes to how we should move to the next electoral cycle. And part of the reasons for these structural amendments that we were looking out for through the BBI was because of the weaknesses that we have seen happen in Parliament, you know, in this electoral cycle. And in fact, it was on this platform of Citizen that I think one of the late night shows, when we had Kwame Owino from, you know, the Economic Institute, and we had two members of Parliament from the Budget Committee in Parliament, and you could hear the back and forth of how the Budget Committee in Parliament has failed to, you know, to stop, you know, this budget from happening. I think that conversation happened on this very platform, and it is very telling that the dalliance between the National Assembly and the Jubilee government has cost Kenyans, you know, this economy. And it came out very clearly on this national platform. And we are saying that some of these structural changes needed to come before the next election, so that we have a more robust parliament, you know, with the introduction of the leader of opposition.
Okay.
We have a deeper accountability. We have a parliament then that can stand in itself without interference from the executive. These are some of the structural changes that we were hoping that the BBI would bring. In that case, then we can begin to resolve this issue of perception of how national resources and how the cake is shared. And that includes, you know, including all our regional leaders in government, so that the sharing of this cake can be perceived and can be seen to be genuine. These are the true problems that are ailing our country, and we cannot hide away
Senator,
from them.
I hear you.
We must find our local solutions.
Okay, Dr. Chris Omalwa, because in both elections that have gone together with one Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, of course in 2013 you are not with Musalia Mudavadi. I mean, the regions that they come from that give them great support is Nyanza, Western and Eastern, the Lower Eastern especially. And you've seen what is happening in the Mount Kenya region. 11 counties, quite divided, 7 versus 4. They had a meeting, 7 of them had a meeting over the weekend, that is the governors of those counties. And there's a sort of confusion on who becomes the spokesperson of the region, who represents the interests of the region. What are you doing to ensure that you can bring a bit of that vote on your side to win the election? Because if you have to go the way you have, there are chances that you may not.
Right now, as we speak, Sam, you should be aware that President Uhuru Kenyatta is the leader of the Mount Kenya region. And
despite the revolt on the ground?
Absolutely, he's still the leader. And what the governors were doing were just trying to strategize themselves. Positioning. They were trying to position themselves strategically, that in the event that whoever takes over, we should be talked to as leaders. In fact, what they said is that they're not going to go as per what the president is saying, because the president has been very clear and he has said, if it's an issue of presidency, it should go to other regions which have never enjoyed presidency, like the Western region, like maybe the Ukambani, whatever. And I've seen in one of the dailies where it shows that President has said he's going to support one of the principles of NASA for presidency.
But
I didn't listen
where does that matter when you have a voter population of more than 19 million?
Yeah, so it's the president. The president needs to put his house in order, because remember, we've had in Gema, we have the Gikuyu, we have the Meru, we have the Embu, and whatever. And you heard what Linturi said, that we don't want our community to continue being used like Njugu Karanga. And he was referring to the Merus and the Embu. And we have Justin Muturi, who has just come in now as the spokesperson of the Gema community. But it seems like the Gikuyu community is disowning that. And this is what the governors were trying to do. This is what we're trying to put across. So the issue is, as the president moves forward, he needs to put his constituent in order. And in the exit of President Uhuru Kenyatta, we are likely to see a division in Mount Kenya region for the first time. The way they've been voting as a bloc.
That's what I'm asking you, Dr. Chris Omala, because the president is a registered voter. He has one vote.
Absolutely.
And he may be the president, but there are millions of voters in that region. What is your strategy to reach them directly, to convince them with policies that matter to them?
In One Kenya Alliance, if you look at the principles have come from different regions with different influences. So the region that we've left vacant, it is the Mount Kenya region. And the president seemed to be, supporting One Kenya Alliance, and we are waiting for them to rearrange themselves. And at the right time, we'll have one of the representatives to come on the table. And plans are going on. I can't say this on air. Okay. There's so much that is going on. So it's just an issue of time. One Kenya Alliance is going to be a force to reckon with.
Yes. Dr. James Nyikao.
And before that, Sam, allow me. The president met the leaders from the Luo Nyanza. We've seen development in Luo Nyanza. The other day, I've heard from the senator that the president met the people from Ukambani. We are seeing more development going there. We're just wondering, people from the Mlembe Nation, and by the name, population-wise, we're #1. When is he meeting the Mlembe Nation? Our factories have gone, Mumias is gone, Zoya Sugar is gone, Pan Paper is gone, the maize farming has become a problem. We're asking ourselves, we're the leaders, and I'm asking this. When are we meeting the president as the people from the Mlembe Nation? Because Mlembe Nation, as we speak right now, people are suffering, hopelessness. All the factories, the companies that were there to improve their livelihoods, they're gone. Nzoya is in ICU, Mumias Sugar is in ICU,
now that you
Pan
raise
Paper
that,
is gone, the maize farmers are suffering.
Dr. Chris Omala,
so we are requesting him
Dr.
to
Chris
give us
Omala, I didn't want to get into this, but now that you raise it, I'm just wondering, your region of Western Kenya, you have Trans Nzoia County, Vihiga County, Kakamega County, and Busia County. Have I left any?
Kakamega, Bungoma County.
Yes, and Bungoma. So those are 5 counties, and you have had devolution since 2013. One wonders why in 2021 you'd be seeking audience with the president to resolve your issues, while you have 5, actually all men, some of them in their second term. Why have they not been able to work?
The goodies that were given in Luo Nyanza when the president visited, does it mean they don't have Kisumu County, Siaya County, and Homa Bay County? That's the question I'm asking. So the president enjoys, remember it's only 15% that is devolved. The 85% is at the national level, where the president has some level of discretion. So 15% we have, but you're waiting for other things. And by the way, the president has done a lot of projects in central Kenya. Just drive around and you'll see the infrastructure system. It's only that he doesn't go there to open officially the way he goes to open to other areas. The people in Western region, we are asking, when His Excellency calling for a meeting, our livelihoods are gone. Mumias Sugar is gone. Nzoia is gone. Pan Paper is gone. The maize farmer in Trans Nzoia is suffering. When are we having this? The 85%, we are after the national cake, not the 15%. We are talking about the national cake, which is 85%.
Okay.
We've been told he's going to visit Ukambani. So when is he coming to Western Kenya so that we can also enjoy the goodies like any other taxpayer?
Right. We will talk about that, but we need to take a short break first because we need to pay some bills. After that, we come back with Dr. James Nyikao as we wind up on this conversation.